Hello. Today I'd like to talk to you about the refiner's fire. It's talked about all throughout the Bible, and in my opinion, it's one of the neatest concepts out there. In Isaiah 48:10 says, "Behold, I have refined you, but not with silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." In Psalm 66, verse 10 says, "You have tried us, O God. You have refined us as silver is refined. You've put us in nets and brought burdens over our head. You've made men walk over us. You have brought us through fire and water, yet we have come out with abundance." It also says in Psalms that he will take us through waters and through fires, yet the waters won't overtake us and the fires will not consume us. Proverbs 17:3 says, the refining pot is for the silver and the furnace for the gold, but the Lord tests the heart. The refiner's fire, it's talked about even more specifically in Malachi. Now, Malachi was a prophet that was sent by God to Israel to bring certain truths, to remind them of their covenant with God. He wanted to show them that God does hear them, that he does care about his people, and he wanted to give them a way to make a right standing again with the Lord. Malachi 3 says this, "But who can endure the day of his coming? Who can stand when he appears? For he will be as a refiner's fire or a launderer's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver." Now, Israel had broken their covenant, and they were pretty upset. But this was why Malachi was on the scene. He wanted to give this picture of something that, this is the best example I know how to give with the refiner's fire. It's when you are a blacksmith or a metalsmith, and you're putting something in the fire to shape it, whether that be a tool or a sword, whatever it is. The refiner's fire process takes the dross, which is the impurities, and it burns off those impurities to the surface, and that's scraped off. So you have a clean piece. Now, why that's neat is the refiner's fire, it is burning off our impurities. It's taking the sins and the things that keep us far from God. And the reason why it's talked about in fire is simply because sometimes it's not easy going through this process. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes there's things about us that we don't want to let go. And this process is to burn those off. But what's neat about the refiner's fire specifically is you put it in the fire. You talk to the metalsmith. How do you know that piece of silver is done? And the metalsmith will tell you, it's when I can look at it and see my own reflection in it. Think about that. We are made in the image of God. And we've taken on and we've put sin in our lives. And that have separated us from God in a lot of ways. But he puts us through a process to burn off all those impurities, take off all the things that keep us from a righteous standing with the Lord. And when that process is done, when he can see himself in us, that's what it's about. Becoming as close as we can to the image of God. We want others to see Jesus in us. That is the goal of a believer, making disciples, but it's hard to preach the gospel and it's hard to reach people for the kingdom if they can't see Jesus in us. Well, it's also talked about in 1 Peter 1:7. Let me read you this. "These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." This is God's loving pattern of redemption. He redeems us and restores us. We have to have a heart change, though. As Joel says, you rend your hearts and not your garments. Meaning, Pharisees would rip their clothes and throw ash on their face when they were sorry, but it was a public display. The Lord looks at the heart. Rend your heart. Change your heart. When we have a heart change and we really want to be free from those things that keep us from being close to God, that's when the refiner's fire can really work and these impurities can be burnt off. We're supposed to be grateful in trials. As James 1:2 says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you encounter various trials. Those trials increase and result in your patience and your endurance. And that endurance, let it be molded, and I'm paraphrasing here, but let it be molded into making you complete, lacking in nothing. And even in Romans 12 it says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and consistent in prayer. I mean, we can look at Acts 16 where Paul was praising the Lord with Silas in jail after they got thrown in jail at Philippi just for preaching the word. They were praising him. What happened? The jailer got saved. When we go through tough things in our life, yeah, it's easy to react sometimes. It's easy to get upset. But when we can see, A, what God is trying to teach us, and B, how it's strengthening us and making us more into the image of Christ, it really lets us kind of look more at Romans 8:28 in a different way. God has fashioned us for his purpose, and all things work together for the good, for those that love him and are called according to his purpose. Meaning, all the things that you went through in your life, it's going to help you reach others because you've seen it. Sometimes we have to go through tough things in our life, but this refiner's fire is about burning off all those things that keep us from a closer walk with the Lord. It's an amazing picture of people stray, and God does things to bring them back. And sometimes it's things that have to get our attention, like going through a fire. But why did we go through that fire? That's what we really need to analyze and know that God always has the best plans for our life. Like Jeremiah 29 says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to give you a future and a hope, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. A lot of times, this refiner's fire, when we can thank God in the valleys, as well as on the mountains, boy, it's a whole nother level of closeness with the Lord. I hope this helped a little bit. Have a great day.